Brother Richard Henry of the U.S. Vicariate of the Roman Province of the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Mercy. He was a citizen of Canada, but connected with the United States of America. He was born of a Catholic family on May 6, 1932, in the Canadian town of Brockville, Diocese of Kingston, Ontario. His parents were Hugh and Maria Viola Gillum, and he was also the stepson of the late Helen Henry, a loving brother of the late Robert, his twin Patricia, and stepbrother of Gail Davis and Neil Putruff. He was baptized in the parish of St. Francis Xavier in Brockport, Ontario, the parish church where he was born, on September 1, 1932, and was confirmed May 10, 1942, in Hamilton, Ontario, by the bishop of that diocese, Bishop Joseph Francis Ryan. The years that followed were a search to find his place in life. Belonging to the Hamilton, Ontario Military District, he spent some years in the armed forces. He was a U.S. Air Force veteran, 15 years in special services. After his first cultural education in the schools of his country, he attended high school in Poitiers, France, from 1955 to 1958. During a certain period of time, he also experienced religious life at the Congregation of the Resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, also known as the Resurrectionists. Dissatisfied with his way of life, he applied to be admitted into the Order of Mercy. His request was accepted, and so he entered the order in the convent of St. Raymond Annatus in Leroy, New York, on the 1st of November, 1967. In this house, after the initial test as a postulant with due formalities, he began the novitiate on August 10, 1968, and made his first simple profession a year later on August 15, 1969, by the hands of the vicar provincial, Father Luigi di Tattaglia. He renewed his simple profession each year, always on the anniversary of his first profession in the place where obedience had sent him, until he made his solemn profession in the parish of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Cleveland, Ohio, where at that time he lived, on September 24, 1976. There, always in the capable hands of the vicar provincial, Father Luigi di Tattaglia, and his superior at Mount Carmel, Father Marino Frascati. After his simple profession, he remained in Leroy in the St. Raymond Convent, where he was still at the time of the provincial chapter of 1970. Having resided in the Diocese of Kingston in Ontario, Canada in the late 1970s, he was designated as one of the members of that community, working in the rural parish of St. Barnaby in Sealy's Bay and in Collins Bay Prison. This Canadian experience of his lasted for a short time, because that temporary house of the Mercedarian Friars was closed after the provincial chapter of 1973. In fact, in this Canadian house, Brother Richard had no specific task, so he was withdrawn from the community, and after a brief period in the House of Formation of Mount Carmel in Cleveland, Ohio, where he remained until the provincial chapter of 79, he was teaching, with enthusiasm and dedication, religion to the children of the first 3 classes of the parochial school, and attending at John Carroll University, where he received his religious teacher certification, which then enabled him to teach the Catholic religion in schools. On October 30th, 1977, subject to the authorization of the provincial, the Liturgical Commission of the Bishopric of Cleveland gave him the faculty to be also an extraordinary minister of the Eucharist, a ministry which he exercised according to the needs of the house where he was. This was a reason for him for having great honor and joy, for having come into contact with the Eucharist. Therefore, he was grateful to God and to the confreres who had allowed him to reach this singular goal and privilege. After the provincial chapter of 1979, he was sent to the parish of St. Rocco, also in Cleveland, where he made himself useful not only in occupations of religion in the house and in the parish, but especially in the teaching of religion in parochial schools. He remained in this house until after the chapter of 1985, when he asked to be transferred to the house of St. Raymond in Leroy. And from here, in September 1993, he went with the whole community to Mercy Grove. Always in Leroy, exercising throughout this period his ministry as a teacher in the school of the nearby town of Batavia, New York. He participated as a delegate of the Cooperator Brothers of the United States Vicariate to the provincial chapter of 1994, following which he was sent to the house in St. Petersburg, Florida, where he held the ministry of Professor of Religion for Catholic students in the private college of the Presbyterians, known as Eckerd College. There succeeding in captivating the sympathy of some students who helped him in his work and of spiritual direction of the local Mercedarian Brotherhood. He remained in this house until after school in the year 2007, when, having already turned 75 years old and unable to teach anymore, in August of that year, he was sent back to St. Rocco's in Cleveland to help the religious of that community to carry out their ministry. By now old and ill, in order to be better cared for and assisted, in January 2010, he was admitted to the Regina Health Center in Richfield, about 70 kilometers from Cleveland, Ohio, where he was often visited by confreres in the community of Cleveland. For some time, however, his health had worsened due to an aggressive leukemia, which led him to die slowly. In fact, in this home for the elderly, he returned to the Father's house in the early hours of January 6, 2013, at the age of 80 years, and of over 43 of religious profession in the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Mercy. The funeral mass, his massive Christian burial, took place in Cleveland in the Church of St. Rocco's on the 11th of January 2013, presided over by the Auxiliary Bishop Emeritus of Cleveland, Bishop A. James Quinn, and was concelebrated by about 10 Mercedarians from all the houses of the Vicariate, as well as some non-priest Mercedarians, some relatives of the deceased brother, and many faithful, both from the parish of St. Rocco, together with the pupils of the school with the Trinitarian sisters, as well as that of Mount Carmel, all participated. Father James Mayer, Superior of St. Rocco, gave the homily. After the funeral, his body was buried next to the Mercedarians, who rest in the cemetery of the Holy Cross in Cleveland, Ohio. Brother Richard Henry was a dear uncle and friend of many. He was always eager to improve his studies, was very attached to our Mercedarian order. He wanted to know how things were going in the religious province to which he belonged. His goodness was towards everyone. He was always the first to send greetings for Christmas and Easter to all the houses of the Vicariate and to remember the confreres. Very precise in his affairs, he was an enthusiastic and truly a pioneer of the Mercedarian Brothers in the Vicariate of the United States, paving the way for an activity suited to them and dedicating his life to doing good to others. Brother Richard Henry, Mercedarian Cooperator Brother.